So I don't know how many people are actually aware of this, but last week there was a Russian oceanography ship with its, again, completely innocent purpose to look at the floor of the section of the ocean between the UK and Ireland. Of course, that would be the Irish Sea. Now, here's the thing: down there are lots of undersea cables. And that is a significant part of international infrastructure. Indeed, going all the way back to when we first started doing this back in the Victorian age, laying sort of undersea cables and sort of putting this infrastructure down, it was basically seen as, well, look, this is for the international benefit. It's for the international promotion of mankind and sort of the communication sort of around here. So these types of things should be protected. And here's the thing: it had to be escorted out because it refused to justify why it was there. It was just there, just innocently, just looking at the Irish Sea floor. Meanwhile, as we said, lots of undersea cables there between sort of the UK and Ireland, and potentially going on into Europe. And we now have to look at those sort of the serious possibilities, because this is always what would likely happen. We've seen this, of course, with Nord Stream 2, but now we've just seen in the Baltic Sea, 2 cables have now been cut. One from Sweden to Lithuania, and the other one from Finland to Germany. So it is very, very clear now that Russia here is doing hybrid warfare, that it sees as its only way to sort of react to the West, or to at least try and get these Western countries to sort of back down, is to try and do these sabotage operations. And we have seen this, in the UK, we have seen arson potentiality. We've seen, just a couple of days ago, there was a naval production facility got accidentally set on fire. Again, I don't think it was an accident. I think that was sabotage. Now, of course, you could say maybe it was an accident, but still nothing has come out to say maybe it wasn't. Who knows at this moment in time? We may never know. But yeah, to say that we've had a lot of suspicious fires is putting it mildly, because this is, as we said last time, a pattern that has been happening across Europe. And ultimately, I think this is only really going to step up, as not only we have seen, Donald Trump and many of his allies basically say, yeah, we're going to sort of betray Ukraine and throw it under the bus. I think what Keir Starmer came out and said yesterday at the G20, that Europe has to sort of double and triple down on helping support Ukraine. That is absolutely sure. And I think we are now possibly looking at the possibility of having to do it without US equipment, which again is entirely doable. It will take some time to do, but it is entirely doable. And that, of course, really means reinforcing sort of European strategic autonomy, so that we have sort of the parts that we need to sort of carry out sort of making these missiles, etc., and just cut out the American sort of manufacturers having to sort of rely on them. That is entirely doable. It will take some time, but it is doable. I think that has really been reinforced, of course, a lot since the arrival of Donald Trump. But before we get into this, because I do want to talk about the sabotaging on here, and it is looking, of course, like the Russians were involved here, because who benefits from this? So as always, like I say, click the share button down below. There are links to my Patreon page, the one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can all buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. So we assume damage to Baltic Sea cables was sabotage, German minister says. Germany has said that it now has to assume that the damage to 2 undersea fibre-optic communication cables in the Baltic Sea since Sunday was an act of sabotage. 2 cables in the Baltic Sea, one between Finland and Germany, the other between Sweden and Lithuania, were severely damaged on Sunday and Monday, raising now suspicions of malicious attack, although authorities now initially declined to speculate. No one believes that these cables were accidentally damaged. I also don't want to believe that the ship's anchors caused this damage just by accident, the German Defence Minister Boris Pistorius said in Brussels on Tuesday. We have to assume that without certain information, the damage was caused by sabotage. So this, of course, I think has been picked up, and once again, I think it is Putin trying to sort of put pressure to say, hey, if you give weapons here, there will be sort of repercussions. These are the type of repercussions he's talking about. The sabotage is deniable. They could say, oh well, we never had anything to do with it, and of course, the further you distance yourself, then the more easier it is to say, oh well, we had no part in this. But this is typical actions we've seen from Russia throughout this war. So the first, of course, of these two suspected attacks was on the 135-mile internet link between Lithuania and the island of Gotland in Sweden. At about 8 a.m. on Sunday, the telecoms company Televisia Lithuania said now bringing the service down. The second was the 746-mile cable between Helsinki and the German port of Rostov. This now stopped working at 2 a.m. GMT on Monday, according to the Finnish cybersecurity telecoms company China. The same stretch of water was believed to have also been targeted by several such suspected attacks, including the explosions along the Nord Stream gas pipelines in 2022. The Finnish and German foreign ministers said on Monday in a joint statement expressed their now deep concern about these several undersea cables between Finland and Germany, saying that said that a thorough investigation was now underway. The fact that such an incident immediately raises now suspicions now of international damage speaks volumes about the volatility of our times, said the Finnish Foreign Minister Eston Feldman and the German counterpart Ailina Belbok. Our European security is not only under threat from Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, but also now from a hybrid warfare of malicious actors. Safeguarding our shared critical infrastructure are now vital to our security and the reliance, of course, of our societies. Again, I agree, but there now has to be, what can we do to help this? Like I say, defending these undersea infrastructure is very, very hard, very, very hard indeed. And like I say, we know that Russia is using things like oceanography vessels, or saying they're oceanography vessels to sort of scan. This is where you have fishing vessels that they know they've potentially been using as well to plan attacks on wind farms, wind infrastructure. So one of the things that has recently happened, Sweden actually vetoed offshore wind farms in the Baltic because it said it would make it harder to defend. It would make it really hard to defend on here. And then, of course, NATO's Maritime Alliance Command, Macron, also warned earlier this year that there was now security of at least 1 billion people across Europe and North America was now under a threat from Russian attempts to target the very extensive vulnerabilities of underwater infrastructure, including wind farms, they said, which had now system vulnerabilities. V. de Malde, the deputy president of Macron, said in April, we know that Russians have developed a lot of hybrid warfare and under the sea now to disrupt the European economy through cables, internet cables, pipelines, and all of our economy under the sea is now under threat. And I think, once again, given the fact that Biden has sort of allowed the Ukraine to use long-range missiles, we're probably expecting a very similar announcement from Starmer over Storm Shadows very soon. It's very obvious why this happened. This is what Putin talks about when there will be repercussions. It's an attempt to try and say, oh, well, but again, this is what you get more reason as to why we should be doubling down on support for Ukraine, on making sure that has happened. And even if, regardless of what Donald Trump and America does, Europe still has to be very much united in this, very, very united in this. And we have to sort of really send the message to these right-wing lunatics like, Viktor Orban, etc. Yeah, he's not your friend. He would gladly make you very subservient to you through various means, and gladly throw you under the bus. That second thought if it meant saving himself or benefit to himself. So this is something that constantly needs to be talked about. These sabotage efforts, these aren't coming out of nowhere. This isn't just, an accident. This isn't just a ship dropping anchor and accidentally destroying the cable, because ships know where these cables are. They know, where and not when to drop their anchor because of this type of thing. It should be very obvious by the fact that, yes, once again, we are seeing more and more sabotage efforts take place. Like I say, the fact that just last week there was a ship that had to be escorted out of the Irish Sea. Again, a Russian oceanography ship. Again, there are cables down there. Are there going to be similar attacks in the Irish Sea on this type of underwater cable infrastructure? Yeah, would not surprise me if there were in the next couple of weeks. Again, I hope not, but we'll see what happens. But again, this type of sabotage, it's easy for Russia to deny because they can say, "Oh, well, we didn't do it." They say sabotage, and like I say, the further distance they have from it, like with the GNU units they've done many times in Poland. So we'll see what happens here. But yeah, it is very, very clear that there is a very obvious now escalation in these types of sabotage that we've been seeing over the past sort of couple of weeks. Very, very obvious. And like I say, these aren't coming from nowhere. So as always, thank you very much for watching. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.